Welcome to Searching for the Question Live. I'm David Orban, and this is the 10th day that I'm streaming live from my home in Italy to all of you. And it has been a wonderful learning experience. I was able to really get acquainted with so many tools, with so many different ways of using the live streaming platforms, and share this knowledge with you as well. And I greatly enjoy your feedback, the questions that I receive both during the live streams as well as after, when I go and look at how to improve what I do for the next day. And as a matter of fact, I am learning as much or more than I am able to share. It is almost as if I were a conduit, input and output, or even hopefully amplifying the signal. A couple of days ago, I was on an interview with Rehan Al-Akhwallah, and I re-streamed that interview as well. And rather than using the setup that I configured, which is a combination of Zoom for the people who meet and Restream.io for sending the signal to various platforms, Rehan was using StreamYard. So there you go. I said, let's try it out. And that is what I am using right now. I'm using StreamYard to talk to you and to share the screen and to invite my guest. The guest today is Simon Hooper, the founder of Remelife, and here he is. Let me welcome him on our show. Simon, welcome to Searching for the Question Live.
Thank you. A very good day to you, David.
So obviously, rather than talking about the platforms and talking about the use of these tools, because we have dedicated sessions on the show for that, what we want is to learn about you, your passions, your interests, Simon. As a matter of fact, the first, I think, most important question is, where are you and how is life today where you are?
Where am I? Well, I'm in a place called Teddington, which is, I guess, notorious for being or backing on to the Henry VIII estate. So I literally back on to this glorious deer-filled park that is the hunting estate of Henry VIII. So if food gets any scarcer, and believe you me, our stores in London are very lacking in food, I should just climb over the fence and go and do what Henry did, which is hunt a deer and haul it home, and we'll be barbecuing deer. So I guess we're fortunate, and then we have a well-stocked back larder.
And it wouldn't be a capital offense as it used to be those days when only royalty or the sovereign were allowed to hunt, right?
Well, it probably would, but they're not allowed to go out, are they? So, I mean, the streets are empty, so I think I'd probably get away with it.
So in the UK, the policy initially from the government, the approach for addressing the pandemic was, well, it will just burn through society, and then we will go about our lives and not care about it anymore. And that kind of approach and official policy lasted for 24 hours. And there was a 180-degree turn. At least that is how it looked like from the outside. Was that also your perception? How would you frame it in a more subtle and probably more appropriate manner?
Well, I got to be careful and treading on eggshells here, but let's face it, our Boris has modelled himself in Churchillian style, and we all know that Churchill was bombastic when it came to the enemy, and stoic and stiff upper lip and so forth. And I think Boris took that view initially, but he was lambasted by professionals and scientists alike that it wasn't a sound strategy. And he finally then took advice, and of course then has now finally incarcerated himself along with the the health minister and so forth. So I think we're all in the same boat, just at different stages of the game, and the policies are sort of emerging. And of course the big thing is that it's been remarkable watching China's approach to this, and having the West have to recognize that their approach has been pretty it seems magnificent in what they've done and achieved. So we're doing the right things now. The streets are empty, and hopefully the results will show the appropriate policy.
And tell me a little bit about yourself, your life journey, how you got here, and where you are now. What are the things that drive you most passionately now?
I think I'm probably a classic entrepreneur, except that I'm not 25 years old. But I am the right age group to be doing what I'm doing. I understand the needs of those of my age and above. My older brothers are at an age where they are in that vulnerable set. But as I say, a classic entrepreneur. I've come through a tech background as a geologist. I spent 10 years roaming the world, being employed by anyone who would take me, oil companies, to drill oil wells in the Arctic and the Sahara and jungles. So I've had an interesting experience of frontline existence, if you like. And that's relevant because it sets you up to be able to deal with adversity, to be able to respond efficiently to the unexpected. Rigs do blow up if you get it wrong. Helicopters do crash. So it gave me a background in doing what had to be done efficiently under high pressure situations. But then, of course, I've also been through 3 recessions, 1989 and onwards. So I've experienced those crashes, which also makes you resilient. You learn to face the reality of what's happening, crash and burn a couple of times, and then pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and then phoenix yourself. And that's an important skill set to acquire that I think a lot of today's young entrepreneurs have difficulty dealing with. You become a jack of all trades, and that's a vital requirement for a startup. And today, for example, in our current situation, our team, which is a small team, is a jack of all trades. We're having to do everything ourselves, and it's critical that you can do that. So my entrepreneurial path has taken me through a multiplicity of worlds, from geology, the oil industry, to owning an exhibition company, to owning a music venue. I've always, I guess, cheekily done what I wanted to do. I've been very fortunate. I've found missions in life and pursued them because I wanted to do them, and obviously hoping that the outcome would be successful. But I guess the journey has always been more important to me than the outcome. Now, well, of course, the outcome's critical. One wants to be successful, but now this has all been concertinaed into a very short time frame. We now need to be successful and have what we've built get out into the market under adverse circumstances in a much shorter time frame than we had intended. We were due to launch a month or so ago, but I mean, to be honest, it fell to pieces from a funding point of view, from the availability of coders. But we've got ourselves back up and running, and now we've got to get what we've got. A part of it's in the market already, but the rest of it in the market as quick as possible. So I guess that past skill set that I've acquired through experience is
The name of
what you.
your latest adventure, your latest startup is Remilife.
Yeah.
Tell us, what is Remilife? What are you trying to accomplish? How did you come to the realization that this was an important challenge that you wanted and you were well equipped to solve?
Well, I think like so many of us, part of our journey is caring for others, and in my case, it was my mother. And my mother experienced a healthcare journey that was somewhat sad in that, well, I'll tell the story. She banged her head with a kitchen cabinet and for 9 months had a runny nose, which was diagnosed as a runny nose. But in fact, she was leaking cranial fluid, which took 9 months to diagnose, and was only diagnosed when she collapsed. And they found she had meningitis as a result of that fracture in her nose. And they saved her life, but they did so by diagnosing where the meningitis was and using a substance called myelin to track the meningitis, which is great. They found it, they saved her life, but that myelin then had been banned in 7 countries and induced paralysis. So over the next 2 years, she became paralyzed from the waist down, unnecessarily so. So not a particularly not a good experience when it came to the healthcare world. And then, of course, when I became angry and started exploring, having discovered this substance, I found that her records went missing. And from then on, it was a case of carers engaging with the healthcare world for 15 years as she became worse and worse. But the thing that struck me was, doctors do their best. The system was doing its best. I wasn't too anguished, even though mistakes had been made, because I think we all know mistakes are made. And in England, we're not a litigious society. But what I didn't like was the fact that everyone was espousing person-centered care, and yet they weren't delivering it. No one was really paying any attention to who my mother was. She was just a name and a number and a person to visit. And that stressed her because she was a lively person who wanted to be engaged. And she wasn't getting engaged, and unnecessarily so. Those minutes that carers and nurses and GPs spent with her, they could have talked to her about her if they'd had the information at their fingertips. And that would have been better for her and better for them. And then, of course, the experience that I had was that the moment we put her life onto a tablet and persuaded carers and those who were in her attendance to know a little bit about her, everything changed dramatically. She was off her medication. The carers became fascinated in her quite remarkable wartime experiences. And within no time, she was being wheeled around to the carers' homes to share in dinner and a couple of gin and tonics. I mean, basically, she was off her meds and on the gin, which in my view is a win-win. So she became living proof of the fact that if you know a person, remarkable things happen for the person, for the carers. And that was the start of the journey. I decided when I met my business partner, Etienne Abrahams, that we were going to use our technological backgrounds, tech skills, to build something that would make it possible for carers, but all those entities, care organizations, nurses, to better know the person and to be able to deliver better care. And it's been a bit of a journey since then, but that's where we are today.
So tell me more about the engagement, because yes, I agree. We are human beings. We are social animals. We need to communicate. We need to interact. And it has been assumed forever that, yes, if you were useful in raising the grandchildren or looking after them while the couple was doing whatever they needed to do, you had a role in the human society. And as a matter of fact, we have at least historical, sociological, anthropological, if not even biological proof of this fundamental structure. But as it is the case today, that our lifespans are so long that even the grandchildren start to grow up and grandparents are less able to demonstrate their usefulness, we have decades to go, and the traditional biological, anthropological, sociological, and social support systems are not taking that into account anymore. So tell me more about the kind of interactions and the kind of engagement. Illustrate it with a few examples of other of your plan that can really deliver incredible value for the individual and for the community.
Well, we looked at the basic drivers of human engagement, and there are many, but the bottom line is we all want fun. Of course, survival and security and the rest first, but at that point, we want fun. And that can come from a multiplicity of sources, but human engagement is definitely one of them. So if one can provide a mechanism and a means that optimizes the opportunity for two people to find pleasure in their interaction, well, then you've got something valuable. And let's face it, that's what Facebook and social media have done so effectively. The dopamine principle has made a lot of money for social systems and platforms and so forth. So we decided that that proposition should be applied to healthcare. If you want to enhance person-centered care, and if you can prove that enhanced person-centered care has a return on investment for care businesses, even for families, which we can do, then it's worth finding how best to improve that engagement to optimize those returns. Nothing happens in healthcare unless there's savings and efficiency to be achieved. So those savings and efficiency we found could be achieved by generating better human engagement. So let me explain, as you asked, some use cases, and I'll start with my son and my wonderful mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is Russian. She's a classic Russian babushka. She's tough as nails. She doesn't take prisoners. And I'm always seeking to deploy my son to engage with her, whether it's remotely or in the room. It makes sense. But I'm also very keen on supporting her care needs. She's of an age 80 plus where she has medication to consider, difficulty walking. So my son is just like he was with my mother, is wary of her. But the moment our system, and this is what it does, found commonality of interest through engaging in activities, the moment they both found that they loved cats, they liked quizzes and games and a whole range of interests, suddenly they found they had means of engaging. There weren't just those blank moments. And my son started supplying cat videos and all sorts of things. Now, he first of all did it because I paid him pocket money, extra pocket money to engage with her, inevitably. I rewarded him, reward being a principle of human engagement. But after a while, he began to get his reward from the pleasure that he got from engaging with her. Dopamine was passing hands, and she began to enjoy that engagement, and he began to enjoy, subconsciously probably at first, but he still wanted his pocket money. But now I reward him with tokens such as you would get if you go into a petrol station and show loyalty and buy their petrol as opposed to another. At the moment, they're bits of paper piling up on his desk, but if it hadn't been for our current situation, we'd have launched in about 4 months the tokenized incentive-based healthcare ecosystem, such that he would have, and he will be able to convert those bits of paper, those paper tokens, to actual Remy Life REMC tokens. But the point is, reward and pleasure are driving forces, and she's well supported. If we tell her to take her medication, she pays little attention. But if my son tells her, she pays a lot more attention. Her medication adherence goes up through the roof, and that's a well-known statistic. So there's a classic use case of how engaging with digital activities, and our system provides a broad range of digital activities from entertainment, content, sharing through to cognitive therapy, music therapy, and so forth. Sharing and engaging in activities generates knowledge of the person. That knowledge we call electronic life records, ELR. It's a very rich data set about a person, likes, dislikes, moods, habits, memories, well-being. And that data bespokes the activities to better engage so that both parties have an increasingly enjoyable experience, and they get rewarded. They are rewarded, as I've mentioned, for that engagement. But of course, what we're doing is delivering health by stealth. There's one of our mantras, health by stealth, because it's very difficult to persuade people to be healthy, whether it's a GP saying you better take this medication because of your heart condition. But the granddaughter saying, "Granddad, take your medication," he'll take it. and that's through the the desire we all have for human engagement and bonding. So that's the core element to what we do. We deliver fun, but the result is we're able to achieve self-care management, remote engagement, remote care monitoring, and a whole plethora of other healthcare benefits.
And I love these slogans that you are mentioning. Health by stealth is very, very smart. And of course, the electronic life record that you mentioned before is also a very, very interesting concept. Of course, also complicated and complex due to the privacy regulations, which are desirable, but of course need careful balancing of what can be done in our platform, what should be done, and how the various interests are correctly taken into account. Your platform, however, is at least not advertising based. Is that correct? What is your business model?
Absolutely. I mean, we've pivoted furiously over the years as we've encountered hurdles, and there've been many, from the fact that when GDPR came into being, we no longer could sell our system to the care facilities along that care journey. We had to pivot so that the consumer, what we call Remy Life member, owned the system, owned their data, so that cloud, in terms of business model, became one with a very golden lining, because our system provides GDPR compliance to care businesses when it comes to using personal data, because the individual opts in to their data being used by the care providers they encounter along that care journey from diagnosis to end of life. So our model has changed, but now it's clearly representative of what is taking place in the healthcare market. And I guess one can take a journey. If you have a care need, you're going to Google or search like everyone does, and you will find remylife.com, and you'll see that remylife.com is a classic blog-like marketplace and platform. Marketplace in that you can purchase affiliate products at discount prices if you're a member. You can gain support to address your care needs. And indeed, as the platform learns about you through use of the companion app, through the use of activities, as I've just described, it will morph to know you and provide you with recommended support and care needs. Indeed, it will connect you ultimately once we move to our next stage of funding, which has been stalled slightly at the moment. But once we move to our next stage of funding, then the platform will morph specifically to suit your requirements, as I'd say. So the model is you become a Remy Life member, and then by doing so, you then are able to not only use the services of the platform and marketplace that you're looking at, but you'll also be able to download the free app. This is the app that used to be called Remind Me Care. In fact, if you go to the app stores, Android and Apple, you'll find it under Remind Me Care, but everybody calls it Remy. It just gets called Remy. Let's do a Remy. Let's run a Remy. So we've gone with market demand, and so it's called a Remy. But you'll find it under the brand name Remind Me Care in the app stores, and it's free to download. It's a freemium model. You can use the app, and that app will provide you with remote family connectivity, care circle engagement, multiplicity of activities that range from, photo sharing, so you can, film Johnny scoring his goal on the weekend and send it to grandma wherever she is and share photos, but also the activities that I was describing with my son. So it's activity-based software. That's the term we use, which is a new term. It's activity-based software that captures a ELR data set in background and which bespokes the activities to the interest of the person. But the key is that data then is used by the platform for the platform to be able to better know you and therefore deliver services and knowledge and affiliate relationships that fit your specific needs. And as I say, once we complete the build of the token architecture, then everyone will be rewarded. My son will be rewarded for engaging. Purchases of activities and affiliate products will be rewarded. The token ecosystem will provide incentives and rewards for providing better care.
And you shared with me this bit.ly link rather than a longer and harder to remember URL. So bit.ly / Remy free is where people can get the app. But what
Well, I
about?
have to interrupt you. It's not actually, because they can get the app free from remylife.com now. Just go and get it from there. It'll take you to the app stores and you download it and use it. That link is because in the last, well, we've been selling the app to care businesses, care homes, hospitals, daycare centers, memory clinics for about a year now. And it's been going well, not at scale, but it's going well and growing. But what has happened is in the last month, because we're well known around the world, we've been inundated with demand from care homes and hospitals. 65 care homes this morning in 2 hours in Australia requested to download our system. So we've decided to give it away free. There is no time to trial, negotiate, enter into discussions. So we spent the last week making it possible for every care business to download the system free from that.
Could you make it explicit? Why now? Why is it that that they want it so badly exactly now?
Well, one of the largest care home groups in London, which in England, we know a lot about because we've been working with them to develop the Remy tool to better fit their needs, and indeed in their case to prove that delivering better person-centered care and engaging with families and using technology to create activities saves money. So we can prove to a care home that if you use our system, it'll cost you £2,000 a year, but you'll save 15, 20, 30,000 pounds. So it has a return on investment. So it means that a care home can use the tool, get better person-centered care delivery and make money. Now that all sounds great, and as they say in America, a no-brainer. But the reality is, it still takes time. You've got to train staff. You've got to work out an adoption process. You may not have adequately effective broadband. There's, like any business, things seem simple, but there's a myriad of reasons why it takes time to adopt. But of course, now in our current climate, there isn't the time to adopt. They just need to have what Remy provides because they're locked down. So in this particular group, they traditionally have 3-4 floors in their care homes. Each of those floors is a locked unit. Each of the carers that visit those floors only go up the fire escapes to those floors. The families cannot visit. The families are basically needing reassurance of the quality of care taking place. The staff are under pressure. So our system provides activities, so the carers don't have to create activities, they're ready to go, enables them to spend more time with those residents who normally would be getting family visits, enables the family to remotely connect with their loved one in the care home, enables the kids to create activities. Like my son, they can create and build digital activities of their life. We've got schools in England now, with remote children, creating digital activities that they then collate and we put together, and they go out to their local care homes. So that has a multiplicity of benefits. The kids are engaged, the schools are engaged, the family's engaged.
So we have a question from Emiliano on the Twitter video platform that the name escapes me right now. And Emiliano is asking, does the app for iOS read out data from Apple's health repository, health data repository?
Well, no. The bottom line to what we do is that we're doing something that's not been done before. We are not health data. We're not clinical data. We're not even Fitbit type data. We're a different data set that, as I said at the beginning, we feel that no one's ever really deployed apart from in the world of Facebook. This is data about the person, what you like. You're drinking tea, David. We would know that you like one sugar and like it strong. That sounds like simplistic knowledge, but it's not to a nurse in a hospital or to a carer in a care home or to those persons who get delivered coffee with 2 sugars when they want tea with no sugar. So we have that sort of knowledge, but we also know that you enjoy your favorite food, which is curry, and we know where you were born. The system knows a lot about you, and that changes the nature of engagement between a carer and a person. And that data is not the sort of data that Apple Health and clinical software systems capture. They've never seen that as significant, whilst at the same time, their sales mantra often when it comes to care homes is person-centered care. Hospitals espouse and seek their quality ratings based on person-centered care. But how can you deliver person-centered care if you don't even know what coffee type a person likes? So no, to answer your question, the data is a separate data set that integrates.
And one thing that is probably true, and tell me if that is the case, we are not only talking about enhancing the relationship between a person and a carer, but across separate and several carers, as unavoidably there is a certain degree, maybe even a very high degree of churn of one person replacing the other, a nurse or in another role, and there not being the time for a deep passing of information. Only through a platform like yours, it is possible for somebody to very rapidly become acquainted, as you said, with the personal preferences, but also with the life histories of the people who are so intimately connected with their lives and with what is happening around them day after day. So that is also a great value, isn't it?
It's critical. In my days on oil rigs in the North Sea and elsewhere, we didn't have handover periods. Very little time was enabled between the handover 12-hour shifts. We had to recognize the data that was there and know what was going on. And so it's the same in care. They don't have time for detailed handovers, and indeed they don't have time for data recording. They do for clinical data. They spend a lot of time recording clinical data, but we realized we had to make the activities such that they were having fun with those they were engaging for, but the data that was being collected in background was enough to be able to build a profile of the person and to then be able to in background inform the system as to what activities should be engaged in, right down to the point that the system can discover what has engaged a person during their time looking at a photo album, and then use that knowledge to, as you say, inform another carer who knows nothing about the person how to continue that engagement, continue that conversation. So yes, that is a critical thing that we've achieved, the portability of data.
It is wonderful to be in a time and in a society that recognizes the value of every person, regardless of their abilities. And as a consequence, we have reserved spaces for those who need to drive a car, that needs space for them to get out of the car. And we built restrooms that cater for their needs. And there are others who are atypical with respect of their cognitive processes, whose needs and abilities require a type of interaction that is not what you would expect if you are only looking at and are only able to recognize the needs of a narrow median of the distribution of abilities in society. And the same is true with regards of the ages. Unavoidably and necessarily, we have always cared for the newborn, otherwise there wouldn't be a human race. But now we recognize that we can and we should care for those whose abilities are declining until we are able to solve aging as well. And I hope to have on the show one of my friends in the longevity research and longevity application fields who are for progressively checking off the reasons why we get old.
I'm guessing that's Aubrey. I hope that's Aubrey.
Well, yes, absolutely. Aubrey is one of those friends, and of course, many of us are very busy, so I cannot guarantee he will be here tomorrow. But I would be surprised if he is not on the show one of these days. And
Well, I
as
think one of the points, I'm going to interrupt you quickly there, because one of the points that's often missed is the commercial side of this, because I think the figure, and don't quote me specifically, but 60% of the world's wealth is held and owned by the over 60s. And yet there are very few online worlds for them to participate in. And it seems to me that it's completely appropriate to give them what they want, and supply them with their needs, and have some of that capital be liberated back into the system to everyone's benefit. So what is often unappreciated is that this is a commercial sector that, if addressed in a way that is positive and not exploitative, can be really beneficial to everyone. And that's equally true of data. The data of these individuals that we address, that data is of massive value for research purposes and others. And it's our view that their data should be monetized to their benefit. And we are, building a mechanism now whereby ELR data is managed by the individual to their benefit. So they deploy how it's used, whether, to gain and garner those commercial things that they're looking for, whether it's holidays or other elements along the Amazon type world, or for donation to research purposes. That data is powerful, and that needs to be recognized more, I think.
So do you foresee your approach, whether the electronic life record is going to be the term that is becoming popular, or whether it is going to be health by stealth, or activity-based software? I mean, all these concepts are very intriguing, and it will be your job to make them super popular. But as they become one or the other, the driving force and the convenient label for people to recognize the adoption of what you are doing, is the usage going to broaden? Is it going to become beyond the early adopters of the people in the care facilities? Do you foresee people of our age or younger people to start using these kinds of platforms in order to build electronic life records right from the start, and in a manner that is less exploitative than not what Facebook makes us do daily?
I think we already are doing that without realizing. So we built a platform that makes it possible, and indeed is fundamentally driven towards integration. So the data ELR that comes out of activity provision, activity engagement, already flows into care planning systems so that they can have the ability to evidence person-centered care delivery, provide regulatory authority grades and so forth. So that is an integration process. Remy's, here's another one for you. In the healthcare sector, it's not Intel inside, it's Remy inside. Remy data, Remy ELR data drives wearables, IoT, social care robots, care planning software, because it captures data through person-centered care activities that just doesn't exist. And it exists with Facebook, but in our case, it's opt-in supplied, and it's managed and owned and monetized by the individual. So yes, we are already generating that data. It's just a matter of whether we can get access to it and whether we can use it for what we want to use it for. And the answer to that is, at the moment, no, we can't, unless we demand it, and that's pretty hard to do. So we're providing access to that.
So the players here in this ecosystem, of course, are the families, the people in the care facilities themselves, but also a very important component of the ecosystem are the regulators. NHS, in the case of the United Kingdom, each of the various health the authorities that regulate and oversee how healthcare is delivered in their respective jurisdictions. So what is your experience in working with these regulators? Do they understand? Are they fast enough? Are they open to experimentation? At least in your case, hopefully nobody's going to get hurt because you need to improve the platform, right? It's not like a new drug that requires extreme care before it is introduced broadly.
I think we have the potential, if we don't get it right, to do significant damage. If our Remy Life members use our platform and we don't manage it appropriately, then that exploitation that happens to the elderly widely, we all know that abuse of the elderly is very widespread on the internet, and not just the internet. There's dangers there, and that's where blockchain with sovereign identity and data management and so forth can manage the process effectively and achieve the connectivity that we want to achieve in a secure manner. But to answer your question, do we see it going further afield? Well, yes, we do. We do see it going further afield. My vision has always been to, my God, I suppose, serve my needs. When I retire, I don't want to sit back on a sofa and watch TV. I want to be able to carry on working. So I'll be looking for work from home. One of the things we've recently added to RemyLife.com is the ability for people to connect across the globe to find work that matches their interests. Whether it's a Spanish 92-year-old lady teaching English to a Spanish kid in Latin America, whether it's support care management, an elderly person in Australia managing the support needs of a startup in England. There's a myriad of opportunities that a platform can achieve if it knows about the person, if it understands the person, if it has data about the person.
I was also asking you about the regulators.
Yeah.
Unless
I digressed. No, I did digress there. Yeah, sorry. So the point I was making is that all of these elements, I forgot the denouement, all of these elements fall under the regulatory ceiling at the moment. So in America, it's HIPAA. In the UK, it's the CQC. Because our data is not clinical medical data, because it's Facebook style data, it falls underneath their requirements for management. But at the same time, the data we provide that goes to our affiliate software, care planning systems, and so forth, our data helps them become more regulatorily efficient. So no, we are, of course, bound by what's called the ICO, Information Commissioner's Office in the UK. So, we do have to fit and match GDPR requirements, but no, we don't fall into the net of clinical data.
And that is great to facilitate the rapid spreading and uptake and diffusion of your platform. So we are getting close to the end of our live stream today. What is the message that you would like our viewers to leave with, and what action item you would like that they would execute as they do so?
Well, I guess there's a short-term, medium-term, and a long-term view on that. Short-term is that if you have needs courtesy of COVID-19, you should go and download the app from the app stores for use by those being cared for at home. You'll see lots of changes over the next few weeks because we are gaining support from UK government and other entities to modify it to fit. So it's there to be used. If you're a care facility anywhere in the world, just log on to that link that, or just log on to that link there, or even RemyLife.com, and you'll find where to go. And you can use the system for free. And it will help remote families who are locked down engage. It'll help carers be less stressed in their daily production of activities. It's free. Just use it, and it's happening very fast. And the third is that we need support. So we are looking to raise funding. We will be running a crowdfunding round soon. So if you go onto our website, RemyLife.com, and then click on investors, you'll come through to our .io website, which will define our runway for the future in terms of how blockchain will support data management as described. But you'll also see another button that says investors. And if you are someone who feels inclined to to invest in a business that is social impact, going to scale, and highly supportive of our current condition, then we'd love to talk to you, because it needs money to do these things.
Wonderful. And I am sure that Remalife is going to have a bright future. Your approach is very generative. It's very much recognizing the needs of so many stakeholders in our complex world, in a society that is evolving, and especially these days that we have the need of connecting digitally, because we must not connect physically, at least for some period of time. Solutions like yours are even more welcome and even more valuable. So, Simon, thank you very much for being on Searching for the Question Live, and I am happy to have had you as our guest.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
So I want to thank Simon, and I want to thank all of you, our viewers, on the various platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, also for your questions and for your comments that are always very welcome. I also invite you to spread the word to people who you know, but also to keep interacting. Who would you like to be a guest on the show? What are the themes, the technologies, the trends, the paradigms that you would like to see me discussing or to commenting for you? And I, of course, am going to keep experimenting and making mistakes, but also learning and sharing the knowledge that I acquire together with your help as well. Also, if you feel so inclined, you can support the show on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Orban to do that. Thank you very much again, and see you tomorrow for the next episode of Searching for the Question Live.